You know how to do it.
Yep. Yeah. You got it down. And it hasn't.
Is this a question or a statement of facts?
I
I
think
meant it as a statement of fact.
got it down. Yeah. It hasn't.
Is this a question or a statement of
Oh,
facts?
there, let me fix that. There we
We
go.
clearly are streaming.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Cross Project Council meeting. Today is April 1st. Oh God, we don't have any jokes ready for today? Like what a disappointment. Um, so let's get started. Do we have any announcements?
I guess one thing we should announce is that the directors, CPC directors nominations are open.
We
And
should absolutely announce this. We do have an issue open for it though.
yeah, I'm going to
But
drop
I
it.
don't know if it made it to the calendar, to the agenda.
I added it to
I don't
the
think it did. But
chat.
anyway, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
So if anyone's interested, feel free to talk to Joe, Matteo, or I to figure out what this looks like, or others who held the same position in the past, Michael, they can think of. And yeah.
Are you the
One other thing I wanted to mention, project onboarding. So we're using the CPC repo for onboarding now rather than the separate repo. We had some discussions about that. There's a project board which I linked to. Cosmos is currently being onboarded. So if any folks are interested, you can see how that's tracking, but it's going well.
Great.
Any comments on this topic? I mean, whereas on a personal note, I'm super happy to have this happen in this repository. I wasn't expecting that amount of issues. Thanks to the like new sub-issue thingy in GitHub. And it kind of freaked me out, I'm not gonna lie. So if it's just me, that's fine. But I'm just curious if others have looked at issue tracker and are comfortable with like the amount of issue this creates.
Yeah, it's a little noisy, but you know, whatever.
Sounds like a just me issue. All right, works for me. Okay, so moving on. No other a link to the doc. Wes wants a link to the doc.
I gotcha.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on beyond announcements, board meeting updates. So I didn't make the board meeting, if I think it was in Napa last week. Do you all want to share what happened then? That's shareable.
Sorry, did you ask about the board meeting or
Yes.
let's see, what did we talk about? We talked about the JSR stuff. But this was before we you know, the working session, so it was just sort of getting our thoughts together, I think. What else did we talk about? Ben, you were there.
Yes, we also talked about funding infrastructure work in 2026.
Oh yeah.
And what some potential scenarios are and what some options are for us, with an ask of the board for myself and Robin to put together something a little bit more detailed.
Great. Is there anything else? Those are the two things I remember distinctly.
All right. Moving to staff updates, we have, as usual, a few labeled things here. And the waiting on legal info. Loopback, do you have any update on this, Joe? No, you don't.
No.
And then we had two issues: requirements for projects releasing internal projects to a third-party contributor, and requirements for projects ingesting other existing external projects. I think all of these were waiting on legal. Any updates? Like, what should we do with those? Sorry, this is the URL. All right, I'm going to take this as no update for now. Chris.
Yeah, I just have I guess a sort of announcement that previously, sorry, I forgot about this during the timely portion where I should have brought this up. Some folks may know that the security group were looking to get the OpenJS CNA started up. And then unfortunately we had Red Hat, who would be our root CNA, had paused all, or maybe not them, but like MITRE or something had paused all new CNA onboardings, which was a bummer. But apparently that's been unpaused. And so last week we met with somebody on that team at Red Hat to go through the CNA onboarding stuff. We've got a little homework assignment to complete by the end of the week, which is in relatively good shape. And then I think once we submit that and everything is good, the time, I forget the exact times, but it's like a couple of weeks or something to work on like blog post announcement and stuff like that. So that's in good shape. That's good news. Thanks to Rudd and Ulysses and Jordan, who are the other folks involved in that. And we'll keep you updated on the goings on there and work with whoever we need to work with for the announcement stuff.
All right, well, that's really good news. Amazing. Congrats on all involved. Cool. Any comments on this? Questions? Thoughts? All right. Moving to staff updates, we had the continuity policy and package registries and the hospital run project. I think that continuity policy for package registries, like there was work on this in a working session.
Chris, you're muted.
Yep, sorry. Oh, I have an alarm going off. Laundry. Yes, we talked about that a little bit yesterday. So we had the draft of it in good shape. There was like an option missing that we needed to capture, which has either been captured or in the process of being captured. So next steps is just for us to the security folks to get that in good shape, wordsmith it if that still needs doing. And then we'll create a PR for the CPC to review and further refine as needed.
Amazing. Wonderful. Okay, that's great. Congrats. Again, great work. Looking forward to be able to review this in the near future. And then in the same bucket, we have the hospital run project, and I think this was still, well, this is tied, isn't it? Isn't it tied to the other topic, Ben? Somewhat?
Sort of. We had attempted to transfer some of this from the current maintainers to us, and we had errors in NPM when we tried to do so. So there's like when you try to do this, there's a link that gets sent. When I click the link, NPM barfed. So I'm stuck. I think the next step here is probably to write a support ticket for NPM to see if this can be unblocked. So I'll add that to the note.
You're more faster typing than me. All right, cool. Okay, and then last part of this chunk, we have, I think that's it. There's nothing waiting on website update. Okay. Oh, and last bit, working session. any topics that we should have in our next working session. We still have closing the code of conduct plan as a topic. Should that be it?
I think that would be great.
All right. So that will be it, and that is issue 1417 for a working session. Okay, and I'll add it to the notes also.
I got it.
Okay, then we can move to the main part of the agenda. Issue 1214, this side of the travel fund should cover visa expenses. I filed a pull request for this, which received numerous reviews. I think there's broad CPC consensus that we should support this. My only sort of remaining question here is there anything that would prevent us from doing this for like a legal reason or whatever? So I assume if those have been taken out at some point, there must have been some form of reason. And I just want to make sure that we don't get into a weird problem. Chris.
Yeah, so folks might have seen that Robin commented that she confirmed with LF that there's no legal restriction that would prevent from changing the policy. And
Oh, I had not seen this. This is wonderful.
And the PR has been merged because it got 2 votes to fast track it. And I just added a comment to the issue to decide that leaving the issue open to follow up with any other things that we need to do. Like you had mentioned, changes to intake forms need to be made. And I don't know, also, does there need to be like a new cost, visa cost line item in there as well? I imagine, right?
Yeah, we can adjust the intake form to have a section for estimated visa cost. It'll be just like some of the other ones where it'll be a single line item. So I can make a note to do that today. Do you want to have any type of cap on it, or is it just people submit and then we'll evaluate it as part of the normal travel fund request?
The latter, I think.
Okay.
I don't see a reason to cap it up front.
Yeah, I would imagine
If
like
it's-
if we
if
were
it's-
looking at a request that had like an enormous amount, we'd be like, well, hang on a minute here. What's all this?
Yeah, we can exactly. We can address this if it shows up as a problem. Which it's easy if it's its own line item. Right. All right, cool. This is great. Wonderful. Okay. 1425. Ben, I think this is yours. I don't know if it was discussed. It says proposals to add a service.md for OpenJS projects. Do you want to walk us through it, or I don't know what the status of the discussion is.
I don't think we've discussed this. I tried to be pretty verbose in the issue. But essentially, as part of the initial STF work, we did these audits on our projects to try and understand what services they were using. And we discovered that there isn't a lot of documentation on this within the projects themselves. And so we tried to do a little bit of that documentation. This was IT primarily doing this. And so they created these giant spreadsheets that tried to catalog some of the services that our projects use. That was a good initial attempt at this, I would say, but it had some problems. Those spreadsheets become outdated very quickly as the projects evolve. It's very difficult for the projects to make updates to them. I don't want to own keeping a tally of what 35 projects use in terms of third-party services. That would not be a good use of my skill set. There's no version control, like all of the things that I outlined in the issue. So I kind of poked around and I thought that maybe we could do something pretty lightweight for the projects. Um, and I put together a straw person, which is basically a, hey, here's an idea of what a documentation for this might look like for each project. What do folks think? So I proposed a services MD file. It just sort of outlines kind of what third-party services are used without going into too much depth, and wanted to see how folks felt about it.
How do folks feel about it? I mean, more specifically, how do folks who will need to fill this in for their particular project feel about it? Because on the label, this looks great and like a smart way to do things. But like, will people actually do this? Is it like doable? Does it have like specific concerns, etc.? Like that's is it okay for this data to be like super easily publicly accessible? Those kinds of questions I think are useful to have.
The thing I would add to those questions is, what's the benefit to the project? Like, is having this documented somehow help the foundation help the project with them? Making sure they get paid or whatever. Like, just that seems like an interesting component as well. It's like, hey, if you have your services listed, the foundation worries about making sure they're paid every month. If you don't, it's more ad hoc, right? Like that I could see being a good reason to ask you. If it's just like, hey, we kind of want to know what you're doing, then it's that balance between somebody who's got to do the work and somebody who wants to know, right? For what reason? No, anyway, that's my thing to add to that.
think
Wes,
first, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've been working on getting a similar, set of docs for the Express project because we thought it was just valuable to have. So Michael, to like a little bit to answer that question, like probably not every project thinks it's valuable to have. Not every project probably has enough stuff and enough history. So I think it's good to answer that, but like I think some projects like ours, Express already were kind of independently working toward that. I imagine Node may have a complicated enough thing that it would value or be of value to new contributors and new maintainers, just so they could see the lay of the land. So that could be enough for some projects. And I think, oh, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I totally agree. That could be one reason. Like, here's a handy template that other people have found useful. You may want to do that, right? Like, that's different than like we expect every foundation project to do it. But yeah, I totally agree with your point. Like, not saying it won't be a useful thing, just getting into like why and include those different reasons, just like the one you have there. Sorry.
Yeah, cool. No, okay, yeah. So maybe just softening the wording, right? Oh, I lost the tab, but the wording I think said like every project. So if we just like said, here's a recommended way if you have, infrastructure assets, that might address that. But I think also to answer, sorry, was it Toby or Ben's question maybe about having that information publicly available like that? I would not be surprised if some folks don't really want to do that, or at least maybe not make it so front and center. I know for like us, we would probably put this file in our discussions repo, which is not front and center and is primarily for maintainers. And so I think people might not want it in their, like if they're a single repo project, right? Like I probably wouldn't want to clutter my code project with a file like this, have to then add it to my like npm ignore list. Like there's a few like little details there where I think maybe being too prescriptive doesn't help. So I don't know where we want to go with that, but like, I think maybe just again softening the language there and just saying we would like a page somewhere that follows a format something like this, would be enough. I don't know. Anyway, Chris.
Yeah, in addition to not being the primary repo, there's something to be said for not having it be completely public to the world plus dog. You know, it's not like a huge security thing, but you also might not want to be iterating all of your infrastructure attack targets to broadcast to everyone.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I will note that like for any of these vendors where we have agreements on free services, there's generally a marketing component. So like even if you don't list this here, like there's going to be a blog post about Cloudflare, right? And things like that. So just keep that in mind.
What's the next steps here?
I think it's gathering feedback in the issue. That would be helpful. Like if folks can, kind of take a look at what I wrote and put in their feedback, we can do a revision cycle and decide how we want to move forward. Even if we want to move forward, right?
Wes, Chris, are you comfortable? Do you have the time to add the comments that you've made to the issue?
Yeah, I can just write something right now.
That would be amazing. Thank you. Anything else on this topic?
And then just to clarify, is the intended audience meant to be the foundation or also as like documentation for the project itself, or is that an open question?
I was imagining it to be both. Whether or not other folks agree, though, is an open question. So it's useful for the foundation because if we see, oh, all these projects are using Datadog, for example, and then perhaps maybe we go to Datadog and we say, hey, like 5 of our projects are using your services. Maybe we should have a more formal arrangement, right? And maybe we can get more services for our projects and things like that. I think the value to the projects is articulated well in the Express.js issue that was added into this issue as well, where someone was saying, hey, it would be useful if this wasn't just tribal knowledge and if this could benefit, and this would be helpful for future maintainers. So I think there is some continuity here. Like if a project really does have these services and only single person knows what they are, that can be, I would be worried about that for a project.
For sure.
Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I always like better, like more documentation, more information. So like, I like Ben's just most recent example of like, for example, if the foundation can see everybody uses this particular one, it means we can do something, right? Like, I think just supplementing it in terms of explaining the benefits that everybody gets. And then it comes down to the earlier question of like how strongly do you want to recommend it, right? Like you can sell it and say like, this is really good if you do, or we can say like, well, no, this is an expectation, right? And it's deciding on that. But like, I think, once it's expanded on the benefits, and especially like with Wes saying like, hey, it was really useful in our program. It seems like something that's good to try and do. It just selling it is a little bit in terms of reasons from my perspective would be good.
All right, cool. That's super helpful. Thank you all. I think we can move on to 1417, which we discussed before. And this is the code of conduct plan of action remaining items. Then we'll have a working session on this next week, so I don't think we need to discuss it now. Michael, your hand is an old hand or yes, old hand? Yes. Then we have the native script TSC charter that's 1387 and 1386. So here what happened is there was a bunch of concerns. Native script reached out. I went to one of their calls and we had a conversation there about this topic. And then the chair changed, and now like the sort of like the conversation stalled. And I reached out and I never heard back. And I don't really know what to do with either of those, to be honest. Feels like the discussion stalled essentially.
Try to sit in on another meeting perhaps, or?
I guess so, but I mean, if they don't reply to my emails, it's a little challenging to organize. Yeah. Let's just give this another couple of weeks. I'll ping them again after this call, and we see where that takes us.
Do we create an issue maybe in their repo or something?
I'll follow up if like that email doesn't work. Yeah, sounds good. Or alternatively, like the other thing we can do is essentially follow up on that issue and say like, is this still a thing? Or has it been resolved? Should we close? Maybe that's the easiest actually. All right. Let's do a combination of these things. We talked about 1355 already, and we talked about next week's working session already. And so I think we covered all of our public agenda right now. Is there any other topics that we would want to discuss before we move into a private session? Anything that was added last minute, an issue or something like this? Nope. All right. Well, in that case, I think we can close this April's Fool meeting of the Cross Project Council and stop the stream and see you in 2 weeks. And then we can stay on for a private session.